Okay, what is up, my peeps? I'm here for a little, recap, a little thought, a little bit more of a calm and more discussed out version of the newest Final Fantasy VII trailer. And my total thoughts so far, and we're just gonna get right into it. So, I'll go ahead and get the very biggest, wettest, muddiest stick out, and I think it's like a stick out of the mud. I botched that. I don't know. Whatever. And we're going to go ahead and get ATB versus ARPG out of the way right now to begin with. Now, both have their cons and both have their pros. Okay, both can be good in some ways and both can be bad in some ways. I myself am pro ATB. So like I just said though, both sides have cons, both sides have pros. I'm going to argue for ATB though, because I am pro ATB. So, it looked beautiful, don't get me wrong. Okay, the graphics looked amazing. The game looked really good. It seemed smooth, everything seemed to run nicely. But the problem you get into is... Okay, well, here's the first thing, and here's something you can debunk right away. Everyone's like, ATB is so... No one wants to watch their characters line up and blah, blah, blah. Okay, that's a terrible excuse, because you could implement something like Final Fantasy 13 or Final Fantasy 10-2. You could implement a flashier battle system. Your characters don't have to stand in line. People just don't think past... When people think ATB, they think standing in line, and that's it. You run up, attack, that's it. No. You can still have a flashier system of your characters moving around, there's environment and stuff still happens, stuff still goes on. And for some reason, people think to look past that. Like, look at 13, 13 was like a mix, it was ATB in a way, but kind of not. But still, like, the characters moved around. There was still life to the battle, other than what you were making your characters do. So, it's not like you can, it's just, to me, that's a dumb reasoning to say ATB sucks, because you can always update ATB. You don't have to use ATB back from 1997, obviously. You can still update it and, put twists on it. And then the other thing is, you look at these games... and the AI is terrible. It's just, for an action RPG, you're only controlling one character, and the AI is just complete garbage. Like 9 out of 10 games, maybe even 9.5 out of 10 games. It's terrible. The AI sucks, and nobody likes the AI. It's just the AI is so bad. And, to go along with that, it's like... If the main character, and they could always change this, I'm just, speaking from Final Fantasy 13, that if the main character dies, or the character you're playing as dies, then you automatically get a game over. And that's pretty stupid, because you still have other party members there to fight, and it's like, if they change that, that would be good, but it's just, if they don't, then the main character going down and game overing, that's pretty stupid. And then you get a little bit even farther into it, and it's like, okay, so what are they going to do with the materia system? Because now materia is going to be a whole different thing. Like, is there going to be MP? Can you just spam materia? Because, what's going to happen if you try equipping things with your party members? Are they going to not use materia? It's a very, weird thing. And because the materia system can get so complex with the combinations you can do, it's like, this is, action RPG, as far as I can think of, is just going to hinder the materia system. Because, honestly, how can you make some of those combinations? First of all, the counter materia, how are you going to use that? And... there's those crazy combinations like Final Attack, Knights of the Round. That's another thing, how is summons going to work now? Because, summons, it's just it's just so weird to think about everything that they would have to do, or I can't think of what they would have to do. And so it's just like, it's very crazy to me that they have this vision, and, it's just whatever. And, there's a lot of things you could argue for both sides, like I said. There's a lot more you could argue for ATB, and but I don't want to spend like a whole video on it. So the last like point I have here is, if you look statistically and generally, like generally agreed upon, is that the games with ATB, Final Fantasy games that is, are better than the ones that tried to go away from ATB. If you look at it, the games of, like, the most loved games are all the ones with ATB, Final Fantasy VI, Final Fantasy VII are probably the two biggest ones that get the most love, Both of those were ATB. And you run into the ones like Lightning Returns, Final Fantasy 13, Final Fantasy 13-2. I like those games personally, but I'm saying, like, again, this is generally well-rounded, a lot of people, a good majority. And you look at how they're received. Final Fantasy 13 was very badly received, 13-2 was slightly better received, and I actually don't know about Lightning Returns, but it's like, and even Final Fantasy 12 swayed a little bit away from ATB too. And even Final Fantasy 12, like, a lot of people consider the last good Final Fantasy 10, some even 9, some don't even like 10. And it's just like, you look at it historically and statistically, not really like huge. When I say statistically, you know what I mean. Like, just generally what you see on the internet is that the later Final Fantasies are not well received. They really aren't. So, like, that's a case you can make that ARPG is just, like, it's a legitimate fear. It's not like people are scared of change. I mean, maybe some are, but, like, it's a legitimate fear. Like, this could work terribly. And if it works, great. If it works good, great. I'm still going to be the guy who's like, I wanted ATB. But if it works great, I will give it credit. I will say, okay, this actually worked really well. And I'm, either, no matter what happens, I'm buying the game. I'll tell you right now, I'm buying the game. It does not matter. I will buy it, I will play it, and I will love it. I just, of course we're all going to have our preferences, so. But, like, yeah, if it does good, great. But there's a legitimate fear that it could flop and that it could turn out badly or not as well as what they're envisioning. So that's where I'll leave that topic at. I don't want to sit here and, fight about it, argue about it. That's that. Everyone has their opinion. Boom. Now, the next thing I want to move on to is the characters. Well, the visuals. Let's do the visuals. The visuals looked amazing. Midgar looked absolutely fantastic. The visuals looked great. Midgar looked pretty awesome from what we saw of it. And that even, this moves somewhat into the story aspect. That it looks like the major story points, or things that we remember very well, seem like they're going to stay. Almost everything that happened in the trailer, I could point out from the original. For instance, when Cloud is surrounded by the Shinra soldiers, and he has to jump off onto the train, I saw that coming. And it's, the Guard Scorpion, the Guard Scorpion is the first boss in the game, and they kept him in, which is good. I mean, I don't know, you never know. They could have changed him, they could have changed the story, you never know. And even the introduction where Cloud flips off the train, I'm glad they kept that. A lot of people thought that they might not keep that, but, the beginning of the game is probably going to be the same. Cloud flips off the train, and then you start your adventure, so, and then, the same place where you, in original Final Fantasy VII, name Barret and Cloud, they have that same door opened and everything, and everyone's there talking and stuff, so it's like, from what we've seen, it seems like they are doing a fairly good job at keeping on track of staying with, like, the story and the general consensus of how Final Fantasy VII ran. And that actually does make me really happy, That was another fear, was that how much of the story do they want to change? How much of the environments? So, I mean, it's good to see that they are on the right track so far. Now you move on to that and you go into the characters, because that ties in with the characters. Jesse, Biggs, and Wedge, they looked perfect to me. It's like, it almost seems like that they just took they looked at the 8-bit or the polygons, you know, and they're like, okay, let's apply the same colors, let's try and modernize the clothing, boom. And you put them side by side, and it's like, yeah, they actually look very, very similar, if not almost exactly the same in their outfits and their coloring and stuff. So I give them major props to that, you know. I mean, it's so cool that they're just like doing so well. And to me, it seems like the only problem I have is that, you know, the ARPG, and it seems like everything else are just doing so well right off the bat from. Because I mean, even the Shinra soldiers, you know, the Shinra soldiers looked great. They got the same, you know, light blue clothing. It might have been a darker blue, I don't know. But they got the same blue clothing, you know, and they just look like regular grunts, you know. They look generally the same. Their little 3-piece eye thing on their head's kind of weird, but that's just me. You know, that's just me. And, you know, it's just, again, they look great. I don't know what else to say, you know. And I'm very happy with what they've done with him. Now, you move on even further into the other characters, and you get Cloud and Barrett. And Cloud and Barrett both look amazing. Okay, we'll go into Barrett first, because Barrett looks like a mix of Mr. T and Wesley Snipes. It's like they took those two and put them together. I mean, he looks more like Mr. T, but with the glasses, man, he looks like Wesley Snipes. And it's just, I mean, but it's cool because he's still, you know, Big Barrett, you know, he's still nice and muscular, nice and big. And, you know, it seemed like they gave him more of his Advent Children outfit. I couldn't tell for sure. I have to rewatch it because I actually wasn't, I'll be honest, I wasn't paying attention too much to his clothing. But from what I remember, it seems like they gave him his Advent Children outfit. And, you know, I don't remember past that, but either way. And so, now you move on to Cloud, and the Buster Sword looks really good. You know, they kept the original Buster Sword, which we knew from the first trailer, but I thought that's really cool that they decided to go with that and not the Advent Children one. Cloud also has, like, his original outfit. Well, I'm pretty sure he does. I feel like it was black, though. I feel like they changed the colors. It wasn't purple. But again, like I said, I wasn't really paying attention to the outfits too much, so I guess it's more of an indigo, not really a purple. But, you know, and it's like, that's really cool as well. Because Cloud looks great, you know. A lot of people wanted him to have, like, his spiky hair, but that wouldn't really look too well. It would look really abstract, so I can, you know, I actually agree with them going with, like, more the Advent Children type hairstyle. You know, just a lot of, like, not really spikes, but just, like, a lot of points and, you know, flow to the left or to the right, whichever way. You know, so it just, you know, it does look a lot more natural. Obviously, I don't think you'd see anyone in real life with that hairstyle, but it looks a lot better than if we were to modernize his his pointy bit, little polygon. That would just look weird. And one thing that, you know, when I first watched the trailer, I was just hyped, you know, I was just getting into it and everything. And I want to go back to Jesse, Biggs, and Wedge real quick. I'm not going to spoil anything, but the second time I watched the trailer and I saw Wedge talking to Cloud, I about teared up, because anybody who's played Final Fantasy VII knows exactly why one would tear up at that part, you know, speaking of Biggs, Wedge, and Jesse. And I about teared up. I was like, no, wait, I know what happens. And so I'm not going to go any farther than that, but, you know, I'm sure a lot of people probably felt the same way. Now, I think there's a lot more I wanted to talk about, but I'm forgetting. I wrote like a little list here, but I feel like I'm missing stuff. But the last thing I want to go into that ties in with all the characters is personalities. It seems like the personalities they got really, really well. You know, Barrett's supposed to be like the aggressive, let's get moving, you know, I ain't gonna put up with your crap type. And, you know, it really made me happy when Barrett, you know, I don't know the exact quote, but he said something along the lines of, we're paying you a bunch of gil, so you better be worth it. It's like, yeah, that's probably something Barrett would say, you know. It's like, we're giving you gil, you better show up, bruh. You better show up, boy. And then you move over to Cloud, and oh, it makes me so happy that Cloud's the same, carefree, I don't give a crap about the planet, I'm here for the money personality. You know, because when Wedge talks to him, Wedge is like, you're doing this for the same reason as us, right? And Cloud's just like, I don't care. You know, it's the same attitude, just like, no, why do I care? I'm here for the money. Give me my payday and I'm out of here. And it you know, it makes me so happy, you know. So this trailer, not really trailer, but this new footage, very good. You know, to summarize it, I think almost everything about it was perfect except ARPG. And for some reason, people, it's like, for some reason, it's like you're either way extreme ATB or way extreme ARPG. No one sees in the middle. No one can see, like, okay, the other side has some good, some bad. It's like, you're either a pro RPG and you're like, why don't you get with the times? ATB's outdated, blah, blah, blah. You gotta get over it, crybaby, blah, blah, blah. And then it's the other time, it's the ATB guys. So, like, there's nothing good about ARPG. There's absolutely nothing, blah, blah, blah. I mean, you know, it's just, like, extremist. It's like there's no one that can see in the middle. I'm like, okay, I like this side better. But this other side does have a couple good points, you know, and whatever, but anyways, you know, that's it. That'll wrap up this. You know, real quick, there was actually before I leave, if I remember, which I should, I'm going to put this, well, maybe I won't, but there, if I remember, there was an interview after, and it was actually a pretty cool interview. It's like 4 or 5 minutes. I'll post that in the description. I will also post the link to the trailer in the description on the official PlayStation account. And then if you're interested, I'll post my live reaction to the trailer. So we'll have all three of those, bam, bam, bam. You can go click on whichever one you want. I would definitely most recommend watching the first two I said, the original trailer and then the conversation one they had, because both of those were pretty interesting. And then if you'd like, check mine out, please. And yeah, so I think that's going to about wrap up this little discussion. It went a little longer than I wanted it to, but that's okay. So yeah, that is it for me. I will go ahead and see you guys, and whatever comes next, we'll have to wait and see. Peeps out.